If you're anything like me, you have both a drill and an impact driver in your workshop. And if you're really anything like me, you have serious commitment issues when it comes to tools. My small shop has become overrun with drills and impacts. But have you ever considered why you need both if they do essentially the same job? Do we really need both, or is one better than the other for modern woodworking? And is your impact driver actually ruining your projects? Let's find out. Now, before we get started, try and clear your mind of everything that online gatekeepers will chirp at you for clicks. You'll see that these two tools actually have a lot in common. In the case of my Metabos here, they are the exact same brand, color, and voltage. Bits are mostly interchangeable between the two of them, although it's a bit complicated. We'll get into that soon. You probably can't even tell these two apart from the rear 3/4 alone. And they pretty much do the same job of rotating a spinning piece of metal through a piece of wood. In fact, you can use either for your projects to drill holes or drive screws. Getting back to that front third is where the differences start to become apparent. The drill has a longer nose to house this extra rotating part known as a chuck. The chuck controls how much torque or twisting force the drill will give you before pulling the ripcord and slipping. And the sound it makes is distinct. It might even haunt your dreams at night. While this sounds like your drill is about to spontaneously combust, it's actually good news because your drill just saved you from overdriving your screws, which can cause this or this. Both of these problems are a headache to fix. Most drills allow you to lock the torque, which is great for drilling holes and kind of sort of approximates the behavior of an impact driver. This mode is indicated by the little drill bit icon on your chuck, and it's commonly known as drive mode. Starting to see the convergence? You'll often see a 2 or 3-step gearbox switch at the top of your drill, which instantly turns you into Vin Diesel if you drove a 3-speed Nissan Escargot. Strained analogies aside, to keep it simple, use the low gear 1 to drive screws and the high gear 2 to drill holes. If your drill does have 3 speeds, congratulations, you probably just overpaid to color coordinate with the boys. Jokes aside, the same principles apply for the highest and lowest gears. These features give drills a level of versatility and finesse that have made them the de facto power tool for woodworkers for 100 years. When the mid-2000s rolled around though, things got totally radical. Impact drivers started making waves while looking like drill designers' CAD subscriptions ran out before they finished designing the front. The innovative internal impacting mechanism allows the drill to do a lot of the work for you. It allowed brands to deliver 2 or 3 times the amount of torque of the drill in a smaller package, with less wrist fatigue and an overall simpler design. No need to adjust chucks or gearboxes. You just get full power on tap. Sounds like the perfect next evolution of drills, right? Well, despite the fact that your YouTube Shorts feed these days probably looks like a drill drag race, drills are still a mainstay in modern woodworking, and for good reason. And most shops have both drills and drivers. In fact, if you own an impact driver already, it probably came as a kit with your drill, pushed on you as a package deal, much like the Paul brothers. I'll leave it up to you to decide who's who in this scenario. Anyway, that's how you probably ended up like me with a pile of tools that essentially do the same job. But all that power does have a dark side. The most common issue you'll run into with impacts is overdriving screws. All that speed and all that torque means driving screws feels a lot less controlled. In my experience, it means you sort of have to time when to pull off the trigger rather than being able to do it by feel. Some drivers do come with speed controls or have variable speed triggers, but for me, it doesn't really help much. Maybe it's partially a mental thing of knowing that that chuck is not there to help me if I go a little bit too far. Speed controls do not change the fact that you're essentially driving an F1 car to navigate the Trader Joe's parking lot. You can do it, I guess, but you have a pretty high chance of blowing through that white line. And you're gonna need to be really light on that pedal. Even if you do develop the correct finesse to not overdrive too badly, keep in mind that every piece of material between the tip of your impact and your piece of wood needs to be able to manage all of that torque without failing. In my experience, I've snapped way more screws than I'm proud to admit, especially when driving into hardwood. The bit itself also needs to be beefed up, meaning your bit selection is a little bit more limited. First, you're physically limited to 1/4-inch hex bits. So say goodbye to most round shank HSS or jobber bits, or flat-sided shank bits that are common in Forstners or spades. Many brands do make 1/4-inch hex versions of their bits, but be prepared to pay a premium. That premium is also related to the fact that the metal of the bits themselves need to be beefed up to be able to handle all of that burst torque. You'll often see bits with these skinnier sections, which are designed to manage the twisting force better without snapping. So far, I've been pretty negative about impacts, and you might think I'm biased toward the old-fashioned drill. And the truth is, impacts are pretty awesome. If you're driving long or thick screws, something like a lag bolt for a deck, impacts will make your time exponentially easier. I also love how compact they are compared to drills. This is a huge plus for storage in a small shop, but it's also just more comfortable to use, especially in tight or awkward positions that you might find yourself while making projects. That rotational impacting action really does a great job of taking a lot of the effort off of your wrist and putting it onto the tool. There's also an argument out there that you might have heard that impacts are less prone to stripping screws. And that might be provable in a lab test, but in the real world, I find that you can mitigate that almost entirely by just getting comfortable using those drill chuck settings that we spoke about earlier. And here's a great tip that I feel really dumb about not knowing about a lot sooner. Throw away your Phillips head screws. You might not think fancy screws make any difference, but keep in mind, Phillips heads were literally invented to cam out because the automated screwdrivers of the 1930s were not precise enough to apply little enough torque without overdriving. Opt for star or square bits. I use both of my projects and their design inherently is less prone to stripping. You'll be amazed at how making one small decision can make your life so much easier. So with those pros and cons in mind, what's the truth? Is your impact driver and its brute force ruining your projects? Well, no. Now that you know how the tool actually works and in what situations it works best, it can be a great tool for your woodworking projects. Personally, I lean a little bit more towards team drill. I just find myself gravitating towards it more often. I think the mix of versatility and finesse is perfect for what I work on. And I think the most annoying part of using a drill, which is that game of Twister that you have to play to change bits, you know what I'm talking about, can be mitigated with a donation of $10 or less to your local Home Depot. Now I would show you mine, but ironically I lost it right before filming this, so maybe get a 2-pack. With a bit holder, you will need to opt to upgrade to those 1/4-inch hex bits, but I think the upgrade is well worth it either way, just for the simplicity of being able to use all of your bits on both of your tools. And that's really key here because I think that most of you will and probably should use both. So try them both out with some of these tips, figure out what works best for you. Now, if you only have one or the other, as I explained, both tools can do the same job with a little bit of preparation. Also keep in mind that I like the versatility of a drill because I work out of my backyard. So my setup is essentially mobile. Anyone who works in their driveway or even pros working at a job site will relate to having one less tool to carry with you. But even I have to admit the awesome feeling of breaking out an impact in a tricky situation and watching it power through lumber, even if I do still have to let the drill finish the job sometimes. On YouTube, you'll see a lot of your favorite channels using both, and that's totally fine. It really does come down to a matter of preference. Now that you understand both of them better, you can make those decisions as you go on what tool feels right to you in a given situation. The beauty of woodwork is there are a dozen ways to get any task done. If you take away anything from this video, it's this. Despite what internet gatekeepers try and convince you of, whichever tool you choose, you're not doing it wrong, you're just doing it your way. And to me, that's the whole point of a creative hobby like woodworking. So in the comments, let me know, what team are you on? Drill or impact? Which do you find yourself using most often and why? And if you enjoyed this video or you got some benefit out of it and you want to support a small channel, hit that like, subscribe, and bell icon to catch what's next. In the meantime, remember that no matter what you're working with, whether your impact is red, yellow, or green, enjoy the build. Thanks for watching.